Hey everybody, it's Casey here with Life Abstract Gaming, and today I wanted us to talk about Nintendo and the press conference they held recently detailing their brand new console, the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo is a game company with legendary status. We wouldn't have video games in the form they take today if not for many different ideas and innovations that have come directly from Nintendo's hardware and games. So it's been really hard on a lot of video game fans in the last couple of years to watch Nintendo seemingly struggle in the industry it helped create. For their last two console iterations, not including their handhelds, Nintendo has failed in significant ways. Not so much with the Wii financially, as it sold like crazy, but they failed horribly at getting any games to move on the system that weren't packed in with the actual console or peripheral like the motion controller. But definitely a failure with a lot of their most loyal fanbase, and even more so with their next system, the Wii U, which was so poorly named and marketed. To this day, most people don't know it wasn't just a tablet add-on for the original Wii. Over this last decade, Nintendo has fallen to a distant third place amongst its peers, fourth if you're counting PC. Really only holding on to relevancy by recycling some of their biggest and most well-known franchises for the most hardcore fans. On January 12th, Nintendo held a presentation revealing lots of information on the Switch and some of its planned games. Here are some of the positives I took away from it. $299 price point. At about $300, the Switch is a brand new console that's showing up to a party where its counterparts have been around for 3+ years and are still more expensive. This is about the time that some people upgrade to new console iterations, but they could instead keep their Xbox or PlayStation they have and just get a Switch. Subscription online service. While a free online service sounds like the better option, it's been proven that it actually takes money to make an online service worthwhile. Nintendo's been dragging its feet for years regarding online and have only ever provided the bare minimum. With the Switch, they haven't given pricing yet, but they have stated online lobbies and voice chat will be available, along with monthly access to an NES or SNES game with added online features. Capture button. While the feature itself isn't new, in fact it's a copy of Sony's share button, it's a sign that Nintendo isn't actively ignoring what its competition is doing. It's also an acknowledgement of the fact that players want to connect to one another online, which gives me additional faith that they seek to make a worthwhile online environment. HD Rumble. This feature may very well turn out to be an unused gimmick like the rumble triggers in the Xbox One controllers and the PS4 touchpad, but the notion of rumble conveying such specific detail like they showed in their presentation does get me excited. If HD Rumble works the way it's advertised and some visionary indie creator made good use of that, we could get an experience unlike anything before it. But that's all speculation. It could end up just as misused as the first Xbox Kinect, which we all know was a disappointment. Speaking of disappointments, there were a couple of things Nintendo talked about that made me less excited. Here are some of the negatives. A lacking games lineup. I was actually really impressed with a lot of the games Nintendo talked about, but almost none of them will be available at launch. In fact, the most anticipated launch game is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that's also releasing on the Wii U. So there's really no need to spend new console money anytime soon if you've already got the last one. 2.5 to 6.5 hour battery life. The idea of a home console being able to move with the user comes with two big problems: battery life and horsepower. This huge range in battery life Nintendo provided varies based on the game, which means 2.5 hours is likely for the more graphically intense games and 6.5 for the more basic titles. 2.5 hours is a terribly short time, short enough to not be worth playing anything that would drain a device that fast. Hopefully the new Zelda isn't in that camp. Motion controls. The gaming industry has attempted for the last 10 years to make motion controls a viable new control method for games, and they have for the most part failed. Nintendo started this descent with the Wii and ended up with a games library filled with gimmicky, low-quality motion games we refer to now as shovelware. Sony and Microsoft copied this idea because of the initial boom in Wii sales, and ended up in the same boat in terms of crappy motion-based games. The fact that Nintendo's new console still supports motion control and an IR sensor opens the door for more shovelware to crowd the library. But then again, that's only if the Switch actually sells really well. On the other hand, they would be useful should Nintendo decide to adopt VR. You can only hope those motion features get put to better use. The Pro Controller sold separately. Nintendo has always led the pack in terms of controllers, but after the Wii and motion controls, they lost their way. They started to come back to normalcy when they introduced the Wii U Pro controller, which was a modern-styled gamepad. But it wasn't standard with the device. They've made the same mistake again with the Switch, offering a Pro controller as an additional peripheral instead of the standard controller in the box with the console. I know that they include the Joy-Con grip, which holds the two Joy-Con controllers in a normal controller fashion, but honestly, it's just plain ugly and it seems cumbersome. Your hardcore base wants a dedicated, traditional controller in the box. Overall, I was really impressed with Nintendo's new console. The Switch really does have some forward-thinking ideas and looks to try and close some of the parity issues it's had with Microsoft and Sony in the past. I only worry that it's still not enough. Clearly, this console isn't as powerful as what their competitors have out now, and both of them will have new updated iterations eventually. Nintendo is basically solidifying its place as your secondary console, but who knows? Nintendo has defied reason and expectation before. You can only wait and see what actually happens. So, are you excited for the Switch, or is it a total turnoff? Did any of the games shown make you want to get one, or you think you'll pass? What do you think? Let us know. We're listening.